You're listening to God's Modern Day Millionaires Daily Devotional for busy marketplace leaders around the world. Day 41. What you sacrifice will come back in a harvest. Genesis 22, 5 and 6 says, "And Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, and I and the lad will go yonder, and we will worship and return to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So the two of them walked on together. The trait I admired about Abraham was his attitude of sacrifice. It is one thing for people to say they are obedient with their lips, but it is something entirely different to express that obedience through their obedience and lifestyle. It's one thing to say you can count on me when things are going well, but the true test of a leader is, will you still be around when the test is being given? Will you be around to help, to encourage, and to support when others are being tested? Or will you be caught up in your own issues? Will you let go of those things that are so dear to you? Will you let go of the way things used to be? Will you totally surrender to God? Can you say today, here I am, God? Can you say that? Can you totally surrender? You can trust me, God. Can you say that? Here I am, God. You can depend on me. Here I am, God. I trust you with everything. When it comes to expressing our obedience to God, we need to learn how to let go of those things that we hold so dearly and let God have his way in our lives. Abraham was willing to allow God's will to be done, even if that meant offering his only son a promise as a sacrifice. It's interesting that in verse 5, Abraham said that he was going to worship. You see, worshiping God is an expression of our daily obedience to him. God created us to worship him. This also lets us know that our sacrifice is also a form of worship to God. In other words, sacrifice of worship through our praise touches the heart of God. Our sacrifice of praise and worship always gets God's attention. Our sacrifice of praise and worship is a sweet-smelling flavor in the nostrils of God. Look at Psalms 22:3. It says, "But thou art holy, O thou that inhabits the praises of Israel." Our God, in other words, sits down in the midst of our praise. He inhabits our praise. Oh my God, all throughout the Bible, as God's children sacrifice, in some cases it even changed their financial status. Sacrifice always brings increase and multiplication. When we yield what we have in our hands, God will release what he has in his hand. Now, one last observation can be made about verse 6. This verse tells us that Abraham laid the wood that would be used for the offering on the back of his only son, Isaac. Isaac never challenged his father's action, even though he did not understand, but he was still obedient until the end as he stood in agreement with whatever his father wanted to do. Now, can you imagine the pain the father must have had having to place the wood on his son's back in his obedience to God to offer his son as a sacrifice? Listen to me. Our Heavenly Father God did the same thing with his son Jesus. John 19:17 says, "They took Jesus, therefore, and he went out bearing his own cross to the place called the place of skulls, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha."